What's up, Big 12 Nation? Hey, you know the grill today. So it's Tuesday night in America. That means one and one thing only. It's time for the biggest 12. And you saw the mouth jewelry. You see the Phi Slamma Jamma behind me. It is Houston night on the biggest 12. We got a couple of fun guests for you. We got a good show to get into. But first, let's get all of this podcast business out of the way. You know me. I'm Clint Foster, your host, as always. Thank you so much for making us a part of your Tuesday night, whatever it is you got going on. And make sure that if you haven't already, you are liking and subscribing and sharing at Big 12, Voice of College Football, Big 12, VOCFB. So many great things happening here on this channel. Of course, the Biggest 12 is your favorite Big 12 football internet show. Obviously, you don't want to miss one of these, right? I mean, you think every Tuesday night, that's pretty easy. But you know what? If you ring that little notification bell, you're never going to miss a single show. And you should absolutely do that. If you haven't already, follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55 or X, if that's more your vibe. And follow my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. Got a new video for you as of 10 days ago. Hopefully you're enjoying that one, the orientation video. And hopefully I'll have something else for you maybe next month. And this month is looking a little crazy. Speaking of which, there will be no show next week. I lost my grandmother yesterday. The funeral will be on Tuesday, so we're going to cancel the show next week. So don't go looking for the Biggest 12 next week. I want to fully devote myself to that, and I'm giving the eulogy and all sorts of other things. But hey, and actually too, if y'all are praying types, I would totally be so blessed if you would lift up myself, but mostly my community in your prayers. I actually lost a student over the weekend. That's been a very difficult thing. So, but anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about, but I do want to confide in y'all in that because, y'all are my biggest 12 fam, and I like to share that stuff with you. So without further ado, let's get this thing going. Let's get my two guests in here, get Houston night rolling. You might know them from the Scott and Holman podcast. Here they are, the co-hosts of that show. Boys, welcome in tonight. How is your beautiful Tuesday?
It's pretty good. Had to fight some traffic to get in here to talk to you, but nothing more important in my life than talking about the Cougars and getting the world to get an idea of what this program is going to look like for the coming season, and hopefully a positive trend from there.
Yeah, for me, Tuesdays nights means podcasting. So let's knock this out, have some fun, and talk about my favorite thing to talk about, and that's Houston Cougar sports.
Amazing. Well, before we get into the Cougs, I have an interesting question for you. Tennessee Titans look poised to wear throwback Love You Blue Houston Oilers uniforms for the upcoming season. Is this a beautiful tribute or an absolute travesty in your eyes? Where do you stand?
So I was going to say, I feel like some important context here is my co-host, while, is diehard of a Houston Cougar as anyone I know, like perfect credentials there. Is originally from the Metroplex, so I feel like that should be important context for his answer. I understand that factually the Houston Oilers, that was the Tennessee Titans in the past. I understand that is technically part of their franchise history. I feel like it's done primarily to be spiteful. I don't feel like there are a lot of people in the Nashville, Middle Tennessee part of the world that if you're from there and you're a Titans fan, like that, the Love You Blue doesn't do anything for you. And, I'm not a law expert and whatever, that they're right to those uniforms. And they got a little pissy about U of H using similar unis for week 1 of last season.
Which was so ridiculous. I mean, those uniforms were gorgeous, if I may say.
Yeah, you're not,
so
I was going to say, don't feel like the Tennessee Titans are, really hurting themselves financially by U of H wearing those uniforms, but I feel like definitely closer to travesty. That's my answer. Bobby,
I gotta say it's closer to travesty for me too. Though that color belongs with the Texans. As we kind of go along, one of the big things that Sam and one of our friends always had this discussion about was this year was they were like, our friend was like, this is associated with Houston. It's not just because of the Oilers. Our police cars used to be painted Love You Blue. And I was like, but you remember it for the Titans. No one goes, oh yeah, I love those colors. Those colors played such a large role in my childhood because the cop cars were blue.
To
That
the
being
point,
said,
Clint is a running joke in a group chat like that they're a Houston cop car blue.
yeah,
You
I
see
promise.
that, Blue.
not Titan love you blue or Oiler love you blue. They are Houston cop car blue. So
Obviously.
so for me, I definitely think that it belongs in Houston. I mean, the Oilers, oil, Houston, they go hand in hand. They don't really go in Tennessee. I would much rather see the Texans in that love you blue. That's where it belongs. It belongs in Houston. Whether you want to say it's because the cop cars were blue or because of the Oilers or whatever you want to say, that color blue belongs in Houston for whatever reason you want to say it does. If the wear it, I think the Cougs should be able to wear it. It was very odd, though. The NFL didn't really go after Rice, and Rice wore.
It is apparently
I'd
that was a
argue-
grandfathered thing because Rice did host the Oilers their first few years.
Yeah,
Which, again,
so
super
it's just a
weird.
very odd thing. It just belongs in the city of Houston.
Truly. Speaking of Houston, do either of y'all own grills?
I do not know.
I do not, but I've been to the store where Paul Wall gets his made.
Oh, you've been to Johnny
Yeah,
Dang's store? I didn't know
Because
that.
I had to go. I did an event with the Dynamo. I worked for the Houston Dynamo for a little bit, and we had an event at Greens Point, and so no, Sharpstown. I'm sorry, it's in Sharpstown. And we did an event at the Sharpstown Mall, and so we were set up like right across from the store, and I was like, I have to, right? And so I walked in, and I was like, wow, I don't make nearly enough money here.
Yes, this one is actually from Hewlin Mall from probably 15 years ago. I would think.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyway, it comes in handy whenever I'm playing a Houston.
I was gonna ask. I was gonna say I saw the girl. I was like, I need to know the backstory here.
Yeah. Yes. I definitely got this during high school. It's probably 20 years old, honestly. But yeah, as a joke. But anyway, what other piece of Houston lore actually that I think it's worth us diving into for those in the chat and those as we're getting people starting to tune into the show. A lot of folks who weren't from the old Southwest Conference days or aren't Texas folks. They may not be aware why is Houston holding up the shocker? What's the situation with this? Why is this the hand sign? Would one of y'all please regale us with the story of Shasta and the missing toe?
Bobby.
So I was president of a student organization on campus, and this was like one of the things that we did. We worked with the athletic department, and we talked traditions. So the story goes that our mascot Shasta, we used to have a live cougar on campus, which was awesome. And then it started to like follow students too much. It wasn't good. Because who'd have thunk having a wild cougar on your college campus doesn't end well.
It wasn't caged?
It was ish.
One note: there is now the live cougars continue once again under the very able care of the Houston Zoo.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
So we had this live cougar that we would take to games, and we were going to play the University of Texas, and a car door shut on the cougar's paw, cut off one of its toes. And so while we're playing University of Texas, I think the first game they ended up beating us, and they taunted us by doing this to us. So then next year we play them, we beat them 30-0. We kind of throw it back in their face. And from there, the legend was born. So we all do that. The joke me and my friends had in college, Sam was a part of this as well. Together's the shocker, apart's the cougar. Shocker, cougar, shocker, cougar.
Very key difference. Very key difference.
Yes.
Very subtle.
Yes. Yeah, and Bobby, you were telling me this before the show as well. There's another fun little UT piece of this, and that it's hook 'em horns with the middle finger, right?
Yeah, that's the unofficial story, right?
I love that even more.
Yeah, that's the one that a lot of our older alumni like to tell us. Sam and I are on the younger side of the alumni base. We're starting
extreme edge of the younger alumni.
Yeah, we're starting to get up there, but we never really went to school when we had this rivalry with Texas. So to us, playing Texas was this rare thing that we hardly ever got to do. And so our hatred of Texas is definitely there, but not to the level of people who were at U of H in the 80s, that kind of stuff. So they like to do the middle finger to the hook 'em horns with the middle finger, but we tend to go a little bit a little bit more with the original story that kind of went with
Gotcha.
it.
Well, hey, we are certified Longhorn haters at the Biggest 12 show. Okay,
Heck
that is
yes.
where we stand on that issue, and always will. So let's get into the not fun stuff. Let's talk about 2023. And I'm going to start this piece of this with the same question that I ask everybody I've had on the show this offseason. If y'all had to assign a letter grade to Houston's 2023 season, and this is relative to expectations, grade on whatever scale you'd like. But what grade would you assign to the Houston Cougars?
D-.
Okay.
And the only reason I don't give him an F is because you did win multiple conference games. That did happen. You beat a UTSA team that ended up being pretty good for a group of 5 team. I think a win that looked more inexplicable the more the season went on. But I can't give it a straight F because you did win multiple conference games, though. Again, the reason the grade's not higher is because one of those was via Hail Mary. Great fun experience. Really enjoyed it in real time. Bobby was actually visiting me out here in Las Vegas. We watched that one live that Thursday night together. So that was a lot of fun, but I could still rationally go back and be like, okay, but if Donovan Smith doesn't connect with Stephon Johnson Jr. there, this is a 3-9 1-7 conference season, just getting absolutely just brained by Cincinnati, probably Cincinnati's worst team this century, and they didn't just beat you, but beat you comfortably.
That is wild. Yeah.
That, and just completely just skidding into the end of the season. So I think could go on and on about the bad things this team has done, and I'm sure this won't be the last time I talk about the things in 2023 that didn't go well on this show, but simply D- because you did win multiple conference games, but too many bad losses. I mean, God, didn't even get to the fact that we lost to Rice for the first time since 2010, and frankly, we're lucky to be in that one late as much as we were in that one. So D-. Bobby, am I being too generous?
I would say you're not being generous enough. I was kind of on the D+C- level just because of my expectation going into the season. If you go back, we had every year we do a preseason predictions where we go through all of the various teams in Cougar sports, from football, basketball, volleyball. We do softball, baseball, track and field, all of it, swimming and diving, you name it. The over under, we set it 2.5 or 3.5. I can't quite remember, but either way,
it was 3.5.
Yeah, I was way at the under. I was like, I didn't see us going into the season. I was going to be happy with one conference win. And to Sam's point, one of your 2 conference wins was via Hail Mary. So do you really want to count that one? Still counts as a W.
I would.
So, still counts as a W. You beat Baylor on the road at Baylor. The reason why I can't go higher, they surpassed my expectations, as that says a lot more about how low my expectations were for the season. But I'm at the D+C- range just because you did win a couple of conference games. I remember the year before when we were struggling to beat Temple. I looked at our third host who was unable to join us, and I just looked at him and go, are we going to win a conference game next year? And there were serious doubts if a conference game was even in the books. We were the worst football team of the teams that were transferred. I didn't see us winning a conference game. And so winning any Big 12 conference game to me was a big deal, even though they were against two of the better teams.
Was decent.
Yeah.
Right, West Virginia was good.
West Virginia was decent. Yeah. And you did lose to Rice, all that. But if I set it against my expectations, they kind of did what I thought they would do.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, and you got rid of Dana Holgerson, so that's something. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of West Virginia fans that usually watch this show, and I'm sure they were commiserating with you as the Dana downward slide was in full display.
Or were they laughing at us?
Or maybe, yeah. Well, until that West Virginia game, they weren't laughing then, right? So, I mean, if you had to assign a high point to the season, I mean, I'm looking at that West Virginia game. I'm looking at Southwest Conference revenge against Baylor. Any day you beat Baylor in anything is a good day as far as I'm concerned. Which of those 2 games would you say was the high point of the season?
I'm going to go a little off board here. I actually think the high point of the season was the way this team played the last 2.5 quarters against Texas. It's certainly their best team since the 2009 team that lost to Bama with Colt McCoy getting the shoulder injury early in that one. That was a genuinely really good team. And they kicked UH's butt the first quarter and a half of that game. And I was just with my buddy that went with me that game. I was like, okay, like we're staying the full 4 quarters because I traveled 1,000-something miles to be here. But man, when do we start asking? And then the last 2.5 quarters, U of H really took it to them. And it took, I think, a pretty controversial
such a
spot.
screw job at the end.
Yeah, late.
Total
for U of H
job.
not to have a goal to go chance there. That's what made, I think, the slide in all the games after that one so frustrating, is that you had most of the game of this team really taking it to one of the better teams in the country. And just the energy in the building. Like, I know it was a good percentage Longhorn fans there. I won't sugarcoat it. I won't lie and say, oh yeah, it was 90% U of H fans. No, it was not. I was physically there for it. It was not. But there was a good amount of U of H fans there, and just the energy on the U of H sideline, the energy of everyone wearing red at halftime when U of H had clearly punched back, was clearly in the game. Like, and obviously Bobby and I did like a reaction show within an hour or so at the end of the game. And we were kind of heartbroken about how it ended, but also just like, wow, like this team actually showed some fight. Like maybe this team at that time we thought maybe has 5 or 6 wins in them. And of course, other than beating Baylor at Baylor, it really didn't show much of a pulse after that. So for me, that was the high point, was seeing the team actually go toe to toe with a bona fide college football playoff top 5 team and not back down. I thought that was a really impressive effort. And the fact that the story after the game was, wow, UT needed all this stuff to go their way to win this one, versus, man, U of H was a pavement stain after that. No, U of H fought their ass off in that one. And that was to me, I think, the high point. As much as I enjoyed the West Virginia game, as much as I enjoyed the wins in both those cases, I think that for me personally, that was the high point.
What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, for me, it's the Baylor game. I was at the Baylor game. That was a fun one to win. I also hate saying that one of the first games of the season, UTSA was the first game of the year.
It was,
winning that one, that's probably our best win on the year. I could make the argument that maybe that was a high point for us. I think one of those 2 games would probably be the high point. Walking out of McLean Stadium, knowing that we won, and again, our third host was talking about. He was like, "If we just beat this team and this team, or if we can beat a bad Cincinnati team, and we can go to a bowl game," and you're kind of doing the math a little bit. You're like, "What if we do qualify for a bowl this year?" And then we didn't. Spoiler alert: it did not go well after that.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad because, yeah, I mean, I can see where he was coming from. You're looking at Cincinnati and UCF and saying, hey, those are winnable games there, right? Those are teams that we have familiarity with. And yeah, the Cincinnati one was a shocker for me. But man, I'm surprised. I see your reasoning, Sam, for saying Texas is a high point. But me as a TCU fan watching that game, I was so furious. And so
I was livid. I'm still probably like, I leave this show, I'll be reminded of how mad I was about that, how mad I was in real time. But I think I was just so happy to see the guys fight. Like I came out for that game because I was like, okay, I might never get to see my alma mater play this team again as long as I live.
Sad but true, yeah.
But like, I was very much ready for it to be a 34. I mean, you saw how bad some of the games went for us this year. I mean, the very week afterwards, K-State won 40-something to nothing, and frankly could have made it 60-something to nothing if they'd really wanted to do so. I thought that's how this game was going to go. This was a very good Longhorn team, and the guys fought, and I think that was good. And it's weird that neither of us picked West Virginia, because that was a really fun one, and that also was, as much as that game was hinged on us winning via Hail Mary, that was also probably the best offensive game U of H had last season. Like after that game, I remember Bobby and I doing our instant react show and being like, hey, maybe they're cooking something here. Like, and Donovan Smith is very low down the list of problems that last year's team had, but like the offense struggled in the last month of the season pretty noticeably. But after that West Virginia game, we thought, hey, maybe they're cooking something here. Maybe if nothing else, that this team might be a pretty good offense. Unfortunately, didn't really add up to it more weeks than not. But yeah, that was fun. But I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna still stick with my original answer.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to. One thing I was wondering, and it's hard to know without really being in a program. There's so much that we as fans are not privy to, but you do wonder how much of that late season swoon there was. How much of it was Dana being checked out? How much of it was people weren't buying what he was selling anymore? And I know also with the Cincinnati week, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there some sort of tragedy that had happened that week as well that probably was distracting?
Yeah, that was Bobby. It was when such the for Ralph Aragwu and a couple former DJ Hayden. I was trying to remember Ralph Aragwu, who was a
DJ
former
Hayden.
multi-year offensive line starter, and DJ Hayden, first round pick. Incredible story for almost dying on the practice field because of a freak injury and only surviving because he went to the University of Houston because he was able to go to a world-class medical facility like 5 minutes from our campus in the Med Center in Houston. So yeah, no, that had gone on, and yeah, I mean that kind of put a black cloud over it. But I also wouldn't. I mean, that's just, there are a lot of inexplicable games under Dana Holgorsen. There are a lot of games where just like recapping it, I'm just like, God, how did this happen? How did that happen? And just what was going on there. But the way Cincinnati, who didn't look at all like a functional football team after week 2 or 3 of the season, but for that week, just beat us up and down the football field in that one, is something I'll never, I think, truly understand.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, Joey, all the Mountaineers in the chat, y'all. If you want to commiserate about Dana Holgorsen, those comments will absolutely be going up on the screen today. We'll be talking about that. And Sam, you mentioned being outnumbered by Texas fans, which is unfortunate. But what would you say? That made me think. What would you say to the troglodytes on Twitter who go around saying, does Houston even have fans? I've never seen a Houston fan. Certainly never interacted with one on here. What would you say to those people?
Well, I would just say, if you want, I mean, the crowds weren't great last season for football. I'm not going to deny that, but I would also say, look at the context of the situation. And I would say, I think the one that made me the maddest was when we played Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State fans were like, I can't believe why they're not showing up. And it's just like, yeah, because you've been to a bowl the last 20 years in a row. Like, your worst seasons have been at least 7 or 8 wins in the Big 12, with plenty of like in contention / New Year's 6 bowl seasons mixed in. At that point, really at the last month of the season, it wasn't just that the on-field results weren't good, though. I think, as Bobby and I have well established here, they were very not good for the majority, especially in the back half of last season. But it was a very adversarial relationship between Dana Holgorsen and the Houston fan base. That I think right around that time, this was, I believe, actually on Halloween night, he did a coach's show where, if y'all don't know this, he flat out, because a fan asked him, hey, 2024 recruiting, we don't have a lot of commits, et cetera, et cetera. He asked him one of those questions, and he was just like, yeah, the ship has sailed on 2024 recruiting. I'm not paraphrasing.
No, that's verbatim.
The ship has sailed, and talked about how, well, recruits need to see shovels in the ground on the new, still actually Methodist operations facility that U of H is putting up there in the, I believe that's the south
North end zone.
North end zone. So bad directionally. Then the north end zone, and just a long litany of excuses about why at the time U of H had the 100-something rated recruiting class in the country, and just the reaction was pretty uniform across U of H fans. Is more, are you bleeping kidding me? Like, yeah, we've heard for some years, well, we need to the Big 12, and I know the on-field results are important, and I think Dana, as much as I hate to give him any credit, did speak some hard truths about, hey, this is where this program is deficient in terms of facilities, in terms of support, as compared to a Big 12 programs, which he spent a number of years coaching in. And that's good. You need to sometimes have someone who tells you don't need someone who's going to sunshine pump and say, everything's great. And then you get down the road and realize, oh man, we are so far behind the teams we want to be competing with. But when nothing you hear from the CEO of the program is positive, when it's all negative, when it's all, this is what I don't have, this is why, this is why this isn't good. And just Bobby, I think the sum total of his outreach to the fans outside of obligated media availability appearances, and he'd periodically go on Pardon My Take because he was buds with the Barstool guys, was going on our pod last summer, right? Like, he just was so allergic to reaching out to the fan base, and it just.
I mean, we didn't have a spring game last year.
Yeah, we didn't have a spring game and
they announced it like 24 hours before. They were like, no spring game. And then everyone was like, hey, we kind of want a spring game. And they were like, why don't we do a fan appreciation event? And everyone was like, I guess that works. And then they canceled it like 12 hours before it was supposed to go down. They were like, hey, it looks like it might rain and we didn't plan for that. And the fan base was like, what are you talking about? Like, it's fumble. Houston. It's Houston in April. Of course it looks like it's going to rain. How did you not think about that?
Contrast that to this year, where they've had a spring game on the books now for the last couple of months, and Case Keenum is going to be like the color guy on the ESPN Plus broadcast. And it's an actual marketed event towards fans. And like,
Mm-hmm.
that's just a spring game. Like what the spring game is going to tell us about next year's team, probably not that much, just kind of, controlled game
But that's
scrimmage
not
situation.
what it's about. It's about building anticipation and excitement for the season. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man. So I was down there. It was my first time seeing a game at Houston when TCU played this past season. My friends and I, we always try to go someplace new we've never been before. And we were all shocked. We were like, man, we assumed that this would be a packed house. First game in the Big 12. TCU's, I mean, I know we're not Texas, but like this is a team like we've got history. Like we were in Conference USA together after we got left for dead in the Southwest Conference. And like, it's like we were just kind of like very surprised that the lower bowl was full, but like there wasn't a whole lot of people in the upper bowl. And that makes a lot of sense now if there was just this institutional disconnect of like, we've got an opportunity to build fan anticipation, build fan excitement, and we're just completely fumbling the ball on it. Yeah, it's
didn't help. Also, 1 week off of the first loss to Rice, and
that too. Yeah,
decades of change too. Just like, very, like I said at the top, very adversarial relationship, very much a fan base that was just kind of waiting for him to leave, honestly. And yeah, you should unconditionally support the team. I mean, I'm a season ticket holder despite living. I was one of the two games I went to was that TCU game where I was in the second deck, and my section was at least 75% TCU fans, and I was just like, "This is disappointing." But at the time, I was just like, "Yeah, I can't go to our fan base and be like, hey, you should be out there watching this team absolutely be the 12th best out of 14 Big 12 teams on a good day. You should be out there for that."
Yeah,
for a coach that hates your guts and has made it like very, very clear in his few public comments that he just does not care for this fan base.
Yeah, hey, you're rid of him now. And the Willie Fritz era is here. So y'all get me excited for Willie Fritz. Is this your guy that you personally were wanting? What are your feelings about Willie Fritz?
He was definitely my number one choice. From the moment we announced that we were getting a new coach, I was on our podcast going, this is the one, this is the guy. When his biggest knock against him is the fact that he's a little older than all the other coaches, and maybe you want someone young and hip, right? Or all this stuff. Look, we tried young and hip, I use with air quotes, with the coach before him.
Yeah.
And it didn't go well. And we have a running joke in our SH podcast group text between us hosts. Whenever we see Willie Fritz doing something boring that is just like, we're like, that's my coach.
Wholesome too, I'd say.
Yeah, like boring and wholesome. We're just like, that's my guy. That's the guy. That's my coach right there. Like he's got in like a tucked in t-shirt with khakis and tennis shoes in a high school, like shaking
the
hands
little glasses with the lanyard on it.
Yeah, the glasses with the lanyard on it. But he's shaking hands with like a recruit and their head coach in some Houston high school. I'm like, that's the guy I want. I don't need the coach who takes pictures with trophies in his backyard with his $4 million home. That's not what I need. What I want is I want the guy who you look at and go, that guy cares about one thing and one thing only, and that's coaching football. He doesn't care about having a drink with his friends. He doesn't care about how cool he looks. He doesn't care about any of that. That dude knows ball. That's all he does is ball. That's the guy I want as my coach. And then if you look at like his bona fides, right? He's a good coach too. He's won everywhere he goes.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that we use to describe him a lot is that he has been a program builder.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Houston State, not much before he got there. Went to multiple national title games in Final Fours in the 1AA FCS division, right? The guy just wins there. He goes to Tulane.
Mm-hmm.
What's he do at Tulane?
No, he just takes, Bowl, man.
He just takes a Tulane team that has never done anything.
Yeah.
And takes them to the Cotton Bowl and makes them a consistent top 25 team.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy knows how to recruit. His recruiting classes do better than he's ever done. He's boring, and that's beautiful. Like,
yeah. Well, Devil Frog's pointing out too. I didn't even realize this. Willie Fritz won a JUCO national championship at Blinn. Yep. You talked about Dana Holgorsen not being able to recruit arguably the most talent-rich state in the union. Here's a guy with Texas ties. Here's a guy who was using Texas talent to build that Tulane team and the Sam Houston State team. I mean, yeah, that's enough to get anybody excited. And you talk about him being old. I mean, shoot. He's younger than the two guys we got running for president. That's got to count for something, right?
Right? Didn't even think about it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, like this, he's a spring chicken, right? He's
Yeah.
60 years old or something, right? I mean, he's got plenty of good years left in him. So let's look at this 2024 schedule here. Let's talk some expectations. Tell me what your feelings were whenever this got announced. Y'all do get to hold the Big 12 banner against Oklahoma. That's exciting, potentially. What are you thinking about this schedule? A lot of tough teams on here.
That's a rough first year. That is a rough first year schedule for a coach. Like I am with Bob. I am as high on Willie Fritz as Bobby is. Like I think he's a fantastic coach. I would say don't judge him on the win-loss record this season. Like I still think this team is going to fundamentally look better playing football at times this year. But even your two gimme non-conference games, which I'd say are UNLV and Rice. Yeah. Rice beat you last year.
Are they even gimmies this year? That's the thing.
No, that's like they're both at home, which I think helps. But UNLV won. I think had their. I mean, I was gonna say I sit about 6 miles from their campus as I record here. Had their best season in modern history. Returned a lot of guys off that team. Returned the head coach and OC off that team. That's a really tough one to open against.
That was a head coach who was getting a lot of P5 buzz this year.
Yeah. Odom was definitely doing that, and like they're gonna look a little bit different. They brought in Slusek or whatever his name is from Holy Cross. Like that's a rough week 1, and Rice in week 3. I think you should win that, but certainly last year proved it's not a gimme. Oklahoma in week 2, very tough there. I think you just really try to cover the spread in that one if we're being quite honest. And even some of your winnable games like Cincinnati last year wasn't that great, even though they, as I think we've talked about a couple different times, walloped the Cougars in Houston. It's been a. I mean, I think Herman won his second year there, Bobby, but it's since he hasn't been a place that U of H has done well. Right. Generally, it's been a while since we've won there. I mean, as I say, the Herman one's almost 10 years ago now. I feel like I'm almost dating myself with that one. Utah and K-State at home, that's really tough. At TCU, at Kansas, that's Baylor at home, I think is winnable, but they also added a bunch of guys. They really are going to look a lot different than they did last year. There's no guarantee that they're going to be nearly as easy as an opponent as they were a year ago. So it's going to sound crazy after I think Bobby and I talked about what a bummer the 4-8 two Big 12 win conference season was. But I would take, if you gave it to me, 4-8, beating UNLV and Rice, and then 2 conference wins, and just generally being more competitive. Because I think ultimately with last year, the problem wasn't that like simply if this was a 4-8 team that had at least a few 1-score losses, I'm not saying Dana necessarily keeps his job, but I think it's a lot bigger of a decision. It's the fact that the team looked checked out. It's the fact the team looked unprepared. So honestly, 4-8, multiple conference wins, look more competitive, recruiting, because the earlier returns in recruiting were really good from Fritz. Like he turned just an absolute, just the worst class of any Power 5 school into a very solid class with basically no time to work. Like that first class generally is a throwaway. You don't judge a new staff either way on it. And the fact that he actually got multiple 4-stars in there, got some good looking recruits that they had been targeting at Tulane previously, like look good and look more prepared for the games than you did last year. Keep having the positive off-field indicators, win multiple conference games, and quite frankly, I'm happy with that as a year 1.
You agree, Bobby?
Yeah, 4-8. I'd be happy with 4-8. The big thing is going to be who's playing quarterback for U of H this year. We returned Donovan Smith, but we brought in a transfer who has looked pretty good as well. So it's and Donovan Smith didn't get to practice in spring ball because he is recovering from surgery. And so there's a lot of unanswered questions about what this team is going to look like, what the offense is going to look like, who's playing quarterback. So it's going to be pretty interesting. And I think Sam's right. The problem that we had, I mean, I told you my expectations last year were low for this team going in, but we just didn't look like we belonged on the same field in probably 6 or 7 of our losses last year. We just got absolutely blown by everybody. This year, if you have the same record, but you play a couple of these teams close, right? You have K-State. Maybe you play them a little bit closer. You play them close at home. You beat Baylor. You play BYU close in Provo. And you cover the spread against OU, to Sam's point. I think this year won't be about wins and losses. It's going to be progress. Are we seeing progress being made? Are we taking the right steps to go the right way?
Yeah, I think that I'm totally picking up what y'all are putting down. I think 4-8 is a very reasonable expectation and hope from this season. I mean, golly, you look at that October, November, that's just outrageous. I mean, you've got 4 conference title contenders back to back to back to back to back.
I mean, how many bowl teams is that? That's I think over under like that's 9.5, 10 bowl teams like on that 12-game schedule right there. Like next year's bowl.
Yeah,
I think like for last.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, because I expect TCU to make a bowl.
9 for so Cincy, BYU, and Baylor were the only ones that didn't go last year, right?
Yeah, and I would expect BYU to be in a bowl this year too. Like, yeah. I mean, geez, they're not doing any favors with that schedule. I mean, okay, Double Frog, he's being a little more optimistic for you though. He says 5 wins. UNLV, Rice, Cincy, Zona, and Baylor. Okay, yeah, if you get that win,
I'm going to be there at Zona, so I wouldn't mind it.
Fingers crossed on Zona. Fingers crossed on.
I mean, who even knows what Zona is going to be next year? We know they've got a great quarterback. We know they've got talent, but is it going to look the same with a new coach? I mean, like, who's to say? We'll have our Arizona show here in a couple weeks. Maybe we can get to the bottom of that mystery. But yeah, I think that's a pretty succinct look at the schedule, boys. Very nice. So let's move on to some more fun stuff. First thing I want to do, there's a little bit of controversy, you might say, as to which university truly invented space, right? UCF likes to say it's them. They like to label themselves as Space U, as so many of us know. I'll have you know that we did space trivia with the main host of Sons of UCF whenever he was on the show. Got 4 out of 5 space-related questions right.
Oh, no, Sam. Okay. We might be in trouble, bud.
4 out of 5. So this is a totally new crop of space questions, but, same about the same difficulty, I feel like.
Okay.
So we're playing for the honor of space here. Who gets custody of space?
Well, we already get it because the thing everyone makes fun of us for, Houston, you have a problem, is us bailing them out. So
That's true. Hey, I'm not arguing with you, man.
Look,
I'm a Texan. I believe you. But results are results. You got to prove it on the field.
No pressure, Bobby.
Yeah. So okay. So let's see. And y'all do have the benefit of having 2 of you that you can kind of.
Or the embarrassment of having 2 of us.
Well, maybe. We'll see. Okay, so 5 questions. We'll see if you can do as good or better than UCF. And by the way, speaking of, for all you out there, if you haven't watched my old sketch, my Space Court sketch, which was about this exact same thing, who gets custody of space in the divorce court battle between Houston and UCF, you should definitely check that out. It's a very fun video. So anyway, moving right along. First question for you. Which constellation has a Latin name meaning little bear?
Ursa Minor.
Boom.
That is correct. Yes. Which is also, what's the other name for it?
I don't know.
The little bear.
Little bear?
It's the Little Dipper. It's the Little Dipper.
Okay. I didn't know.
I mean, yeah, y'all got that one right. I was just
that one still counts. We still get that one.
Okay. Well, 1 for 1. 1 for 1 so far. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that one's way too easy. All right. Actually, I'll ask you this. This is a question that I asked UCF, and I wonder if you'll know it too. So, which planet in our solar system is the hottest?
It's got to be Mercury, right?
Bobby, I think I know this.
All right, go ahead.
I think it's Venus.
Venus is correct.
There you go.
Mercury's its closest, but Venus has the atmosphere.
The atmosphere makes Venus hotter. Look at y'all.
Sam.
Very nice.
Had a baby Sam.
2 for 2. Okay. All right.
Good job on that one, Sam.
Okay, this is a tough one, but we're gonna, hey, mission control. Like, come on, I'm gonna see if y'all know this one. How long does it take for a launch shuttle to clear the pad tower?
Sam went to private school. I don't know.
Private high school, man. I still went to U of H like you. Let's say, you okay with me guessing this, Bob? It is a total guess, but I'm gonna say 20 seconds. I have no idea.
It is actually 7 seconds. 7 seconds. That's a hard one. I was like, I don't. We're probably reaching with this one, but you know. So far you're at least
on
you're 2 to
pace.
3. You can do as good as UCF.
There we go.
Okay.
We can keep the controversy going.
All right. Planets shine, so they become like visible from Earth when they reflect what?
The sun.
Yeah, the sun. Exactly. Very good. Very nice.
All right.
Yes. Okay. 3 for 4.
All right, I got one. I'm out. Later, boys.
Okay, let me find one more good one. Let's see. Okay, that's all right. Some of these are like stupid easy. Okay. All right. First manned space mission to land on the moon was called what?
Was it Apollo 9?
I know it's not 13. 13 is the one that had problems.
yeah.
They made the movie about.
And 8 is, I only know 8 because they have the coolest like flight patch ever, because it went around the moon, and so it made like a figure 8 logo on the, the patch. I feel like it's it's 9 or 10.
My initial thought was 11, but you know what? You seem to know. I was gonna say other than Apollo 13,
I'm going with 10 then. It might be 11, but I'll go with 10. I'll go with 10.
Is that, I mean, Sam, like, y'all confer. Is that y'all's final answer?
Are you okay with going 11, Bobby?
I'm okay going 11.
All right, let's go Apollo 11.
It is Apollo 11.
Oh,
amazing. Yes, very good. Y'all tied with UCF. 4 out of 5. Amazing. So the space's custody remains unresoled.
There we
wow.
go.
What
like all things with, I was gonna say, I like the controversy going still, even though
Yeah.
I agree with Bobby that mission control and the thing that's used to make fun of us is like,
is us bailing them out.
The brain center's in Texas, but you know what, we'll let the controversy live, because the brain center certainly isn't Bobby and I.
Right. Well, perfect. Well, good job, boys. So we got one more game for us to play. I was going to do a tier list with y'all, and because I've done a lot of tier lists with guests, they tend to be fun. Initially, I was going to just do like Houston things. So I had like humidity and traffic and like, just like Houston things and like rate them on Houston-ness. But then I went down a rabbit hole and I was like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's rate famous people from Houston, right? As in, just famous people from history, celebrities. All of these people are from Houston. We're going to determine, whether they are S-tier Houstonians, D-tier Houstonians, etc. Okay, and it's up to y'all to do the ranking. Sound good?
Yep.
All right, amazing. So we'll do this and close things out. First one I got for you, Alexis Bledel. Either of y'all Gossip Girl fans?
I wouldn't say I was a fan, but I definitely have seen some episodes. For me, that's probably C tier.
I'll agree. I'll take that, Bob. We'll go C tier.
Okay, C tier for Alexis Bledel. Sorry, Gilmore Girls. Barbara Jordan, the first ever female Black member of the House of Representatives from the South. First Black Texas senator, if I think is correct as well. Barbara Jordan, where are we putting her?
Give Barbara Jordan the A tier, right, Bobby?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
A-tier. Okay, very good. A-tier for Barbara Jordan. Michael Strahan, former
D-tier. As somebody who grew up a Cowboys fan, what's the lowest tier? Put him below that. Stupid gap in his teeth.
Yeah, hey, I'm down with that. Long-suffering Cowboys fan myself. Sam, are you good with D tier?
We'll put him in the D tier.
Okay, perfect. Kenny Rogers, the gambler himself.
S tier.
You're going S tier?
Yeah, S tier. You gotta know when to hold him and fold him, Bobby.
I'm in on S tier. That's fine. I will go with that.
When to walk away, when to Kenny Rogers. Perfect. WrestleMania just happened. The Undertaker.
S tier.
Yeah.
I don't care what Sam says. That is S tier.
No,
I'm for that one.
I was gonna say.
I love, we're already off to a great start. We've got the Undertaker above Barbara Jordan. Fantastic.
There we go.
Well, Sam, we're getting canceled, bud.
Jim Parsons of Big Bang Theory fame. Where are we putting Jim Parsons?
I would normally put, if it were just me, I would put him in a B tier, but he's a Houston Cougar. So I feel like we got to go at least A or S.
Yeah, A tier because he's a Coug.
Yep.
Okay.
And still
A
like
tier.
semi-regularly like appears at you. Like, he isn't just like, oh, he went there and hasn't mentioned or been around U of H in 30 years. No, he's like semi-regularly back.
Yep.
Okay. We've talked about grills. Chameleonaire, which in fact, where's Chameleonaire these days? Whatever happened to him?
He invested a lot of money and now he's like super rich off of like his investments.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. Well, where is he on the
Military.
tier list?
I'm gonna say B tier, Bobby.
That's where I was going to put him too.
We have some other Houston rappers coming up. I see in the preview there. Well, solid B tier.
I will say, middle school Clint loved "Turn It Up."
Yeah,
It's a banger. It's a banger.
Absolute banger. Shelley Duvall from The Shining, from Popeye, other movies. Y'all know Shelley Duvall?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is unfortunately not aged well, by the way. I realized.
C or D tier?
We'll say C. Like The Shining is a really good movie.
Yeah, that's true.
I genuinely did not know she was Houston.
Me neither.
Yeah, apparently she is. Now, this guy's not from Houston, but come on. Sam Houston, the city's named after him. Where are we putting Sam Houston?
We have old Governor Sam, the A tier. You go with that, Bobby?
Yep.
First president of the Republic of Texas.
Just remember Undertaker and Kenny Rogers over Sam Houston right now, guys.
Over Sam Houston and Barbara Jordan. Amazing. Okay. So Mr. Astro World himself, Travis Scott. Where are we putting Travis Scott?
You're going D tier? Okay.
D.
I'm in.
Didn't like it's cool he's releasing Big 12 stuff. Like that's not, but like
I think he's got a couple of bangers, but when you kill a couple of Houstonians,
yeah.
And he went to UTSA. Like, no, sorry.
Yeah, you know, the whole borderline satanic ritual and people getting trampled.
Yeah.
Hey, Double Frog, I'm with you, man. Sam Houston S tier all day. Hey, but it's not my list. It's their list. Okay. Beyonce, Queen Bee, newly of country album fame, if you want to call it that. Beyonce, where are we putting Beyonce?
B.
Okay.
Like, I'm like, don't get me wrong. The music's very good, all that stuff, but like,
as
you know,
a Houstonian,
Jim Parsons a moment ago was like, hey, like this guy comes back. Like, you know, like Beyonce just does not want anything to do with Houston. Like, I hate that people are like, oh, she reps Houston. No, she happens to be from Houston. Like, she could not give it.
And in her latest album, she loves to mention that she's from Louisiana. So exactly.
Yeah. But like some good music. So I'll put her in the B tier.
All right.
Okay. Another singer, Megan Thee Stallion. Where are we putting Megan Thee Stallion?
Bobby, my significant other would literally kill me if I put Megan Thee Stallion any less than A tier.
You know what? I know your significant other. Put it in A tier.
There we go.
They will murder you. So
Megan Thee Stallion above Beyonce. There you go.
Yep.
All right, Lizzie McGuire herself, Hillary Duff, folks. This gal is aged like a fine wine, by the way.
Like a great fine wine.
Yes.
But I would say C tier. Sam.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You didn't get the pleasure of going to a Houston high school, Bobby. So it was a con thing or something. Like, yeah, my cousin's friend knows like Lizzie McGuire or something like that because Hillary Duff is from Houston and like, oh yeah, my cousin's friend goes to Memorial High, which is like Memorial High is like the fanciest pants public school Houston. Like Roger Clemens' kids are like, oh no, it's Lizzie McGuire. It's like, sure, buddy, sure they do.
Okay. All right, next up, who? I don't know who this is. Who?
Mike Jones, S tier.
Mike Jones, yes, there you go. Thank you, Sam. Where are we
going? S tier.
S tier.
I'm all right with it.
Sorry, Governor Houston. Mike Jones here.
Still tipping. Patrick Swayze. Where are we putting Patrick Swayze?
Solid B, I would say.
I was gonna go C, but I'm in on B.
Wow.
I just watched Roadhouse recently with my significant other.
Oh my goodness! Wow. This is raising some eyebrows on the internet. Paul Wall, the other man known for repping his girls. Where are we putting Paul Wall?
A tier for me.
Yeah, it's A tier.
The song "Grills" in and of itself gets you in the A tier. And if we talk about people who rep their city more than anybody else on this,
as I say, he never went to U of H, but he's been at a lot of U of H stuff over the last several years. So yeah,
he's literally wearing an Astros hat in this picture.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, questionable choice maybe, but yeah. So Jennifer Garner, I didn't realize she was from Houston. Where are you putting Jennifer Garner?
C for the Capital One ads that have just like
yeah, there you go.
Made me preemptively mute.
Just for the Capital One.
Like, I don't think, yeah.
Okay, I said this is a hater show, but Vince Young, famous Houstonian, and I put him in his Tennessee Titans gear intentionally. Where are we putting Vince Young?
This is hard because I hate that school, but Vince Young was so good. I saw him play for Madison High in Houston. Like he was. For anyone, like if it was any, I'm gonna say B tier, but like for a Longhorn with the two of us, that's like S tier.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So I'm gonna say B tier. Even
That's
like,
fair.
but like, don't have anything. Like obviously his pro career didn't like go amazing, but like college quarterbacks, like I have seen very very few that are even in his caliber, much less better than
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's fair. Okay, two more for us. Robert Earl Keane. Is the road going on forever and the party never ending for this?
We'll say A. I'm saying A tier for Robert Earl Keane.
You're that big of a Robert Earl Keane fan?
The road goes on forever and the party never ends, friend.
I just feel like B is.
You're not a big country guy.
I know.
Well, y'all put Kenny Rogers in S tier, so
I force up to you, bud. Since
we're going B.
All right, we'll go B. We'll go B.
B tier.
Under protest, but we're going
under
B.
protest.
Last but not least, new Oscar winner Wes Anderson for short film.
Right, yeah, he went.
Where are you putting Wes Anderson?
Dude.
I actually like his movies, but C tier because he went to another Houston private school that wasn't mine, and we all feel some kind of way about them. But I genuinely
let's go.
C tier. I saw Asteroid City in theaters. I like Wes Anderson fine, but just to be salty because he went to St. John's and I went to St. Thomas, he's going C tier.
Are you agreeing, Bobby?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I trust Sam on this one.
There you go. The official ranking cannot be disputed of famous Houstonians by the Houston Cougar podcast that we got on the show there. And there you go. This is science. The best Houstonians ever are Kenny Rogers, The Undertaker, and Mike Jones. You can't dispute it. Right? Yeah. You can't.
Man, I'm really feeling bad that we put Sam Houston in A tier, man.
Barbara Jordan, maybe too. Oh, well.
Yeah. I keep looking at it. I'm like, oh man, that one's not going to age well. These are
little Undertaker and then Barbara Jordan, and you're like, oh, what have I done?
It's official now. Hey, you can't go back now. It's what's done is done. This is on the internet forever. Boys, thank you so much for joining the show. Please plug your stuff. Tell the people where they can find you, where they can listen to you, all that good stuff.
Have at it, Sam.
Yeah, we're everywhere you get podcasts. The Scott and Holland podcast, you can read right there. We're actually literally minutes after this show going to be recording a spring football kind of thoughts on what UVH is going to look like in the spring in the coming season. So check us out there at SH Podcast on Twitter. Clint, thank you so much for having us, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can they follow y'all personally? If you're into
he's at SH Podcast. He runs, him and our other host run that account, and then I have my own number one Coog, COOG for Coog. You can find me there. You'll see random golf thoughts, and you will see lots of Houston Cougar thoughts as well that maybe aren't as controversial as the SH Podcast ones, but please understand that I fully support everything that they said.
Fantastic.
I am fully on board with everything they put on.
Well, boys, thank you so much again, Sam, Bobby, for joining the show. Appreciate the heck out of y'all. Y'all, this has been The Biggest 12 with me, your host, Clint Foster. Follow me on social media, Twitter at Clint_Foster55, at Clint Foster Comedy on YouTube. Try to put things out for you as quickly as I can down there. And don't forget, no show next week, but I will be with you again the following Tuesday. And we're going to talk about some Arizona football. We're going to welcome in one of our other new members. So that's very exciting as well. Until then, y'all be safe. I love y'all. I hope your team wins. And go Big 12. See you around.